I have started the recording.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready to get started. So this is a small interim of the DETNET working group. Thank you all for joining. In your chat, you should see a link to CodeMD. Please jump on there. We seem to have only half the people on there, and add your name to the virtual blue sheet. And once you're there, please also help capture notes. Again, we don't have to capture all the details of what's being presented, but really just the discussions. This session is being recorded, as are all formal sessions. This is our usual note well. It covers everything that we discuss here. Basically, all discussion becomes an IETF contribution. If you're unfamiliar with these rules, suggest you go take a look at the About Note Well on the IETF page that's on the bottom, and familiar yourself with our rules of conduct and contribution. Not sure why this, oh, there we go. So we're using Meet Echo. We'd like to try to keep the WebEx chat for just queue management. Our experience has been, or my experience has been, that this sort of devolves and doesn't always work well. So we'll try to use Jabber, but I expect things will end up going back a little bit back and forth between Jabber and chat, but Jabber is a little harder than when we have our normal meetings because it's not integrated into the application. So some people may not be able to get on that. For note-taking, we've already talked about CodeMD, and all material here is posted and available on the link that was sent to the list and shown here. The agenda has been updated from the original agenda. That's highlighted on the bottom, and in particular that the fourth item has been added. We have an hour and a half. We think we have enough time to cover all topics and maybe have a little time left over, but we also really want to have good discussion. So we're going to try to let discussions run as much as possible, with allowing some time for the later presentations. This is just a reminder of our IPR process. We do a formal request for disclosure both at time of adoption and prior to last call. We are all familiar with working remote at this point. If you would like to have your an informal meeting, the WebEx is available. I'd also like to point out that the IETF Gather is also available. We would like to suggest, although not require, that for your informal meetings that you advertise it to the list and to invite contribution from all working group members or participants. And just a reminder, the next IETF has already been announced as being online. If you'd like to have a WebEx session scheduled, just let us know. I do expect we'll come back and say, hey, can you try using Gather and announce it? And I'll still announce that on the list. And that's it. So next up on the agenda, sorry about that, is the control plane framework. I'm not sure which author is going to present. I note that we have multiple on, so that's great. If you'd like to take the screen, you should be able to just grab it. And if that doesn't work, let us know.
Hi, Lou. I will present this part. Sorry.
Thank you. Are you able to share your screen, Shusong?
I'm not sure. I can try, but I think if you could do that, I will be appreciate.
No worries.
Thank you. Okay, I will start. Actually, these slides are almost very similar to our previous presentation in IETF 108, and this time just to maintain these contents to give a very quick review of what we have done in this document and what has been updated. And we also want to collect feedback from the working group to move this work forward. Next slide, please. This is the background and what we are trying to propose. The background of this document is that there are some existing work in the working group that mentioned about the controller plan, including control plan and management plan for DETNET. One of them is in DETNET architecture document, and another one is DETNET data plan framework. And our purpose for this document is to compile all the requirements together and also provide an overview of the architecture and the considerations, and also try to give guidance for following control plan work in the working group. Next slide, please. This is the update comparing to version 4. We address the comments in IETF 108, and we have some discussions in working group mailing list. Section 5.2.2 of the document is updated, and also we add the reference to DETNET MPS OEM and DETNET IP OEM. Next slide. Next slide, please. This page, I just list all the control plan requirements, and I will not read them because we have already gone through them in IETF 108. Next slide. This is the management plan requirement. Actually, the comments coming from IETF 108 is about the management plan requirement, especially about the relationship between the OEM document and what should be defined in this document. And I think we have made this part clear because the OEM part is not the main purpose of this document. What we should include it is just some reference to the existing work in IETF and what should be contained in management plan. Maybe we'll request more discussions, including the comments from Balas, for example, the administration collection of DETNET service request, and also some very great comments from Lu. Maybe the controller plan doesn't include the OEM part, which should be the input of the controller plan. And I think in the following work, we should consider all these comments from the working group and try to add more contents for this part. Next slide, please. And this is what are included in the existing version. We list 3 models for control plan architecture. One of them is distributed, one of them is fully centralized, and one of them is combined control plan. Next slide, please. This is the control plan considerations. All these functions or features are defined in DETNET architecture, including explicit path, resource reservation, and packet replication, elimination, ordering function support. Next slide, please. And this is the management plan overview. As I have mentioned, in the existing work, we only contains some very brief descriptions about OEM and adding some reference to the existing OEM work. And in the following version, we should try to add more contents in management plan. Next slide, please.
Sorry for being slow. I was trying to get to do plus Q, but for myself.
Sure. Go ahead.
I interpreted the comments made before related to management, to OAM, as that since we now have OAM drafts, that it's not really appropriate to go into this in the control plane document. You might want to have control of OAM functions, but the actual definition of the OAM function should reference the OAM draft. So rather than adding more here, you might want to add less.
Yes, maybe I have a misleading what I want to express here. Actually, what I'm ending here is just a reference to the existing OEM documents, and what I'm going to work on after this interim is about to add more other part of management plan functions. For example, collecting input from OEM or some other kind of management.
I'm not sure why the controller plane or control plane framework would be going into management plane definitions. I'm a little confused on why that's in scope for this document. If maybe you could explain that either now or on list, whatever works for you.
Actually, I'm also a little confused about the scope of the management plan, because for the control plan, it is clear either it is for architecture of the control plan, sorry. It can be some signaling protocol extension, or it can be some maybe centralized configuration by Young model or other methods. But for management plan, what should be included in the document, I think that is the whole point that I want to bring this topic to the discussion of interim. What is working group expected for this part?
Fair enough, and I do agree that it is controller plane. It can be a little confusing because it's both distributed control plane and centralized control plane support. And of course, centralized control plane support, the interface looks a lot like a management interface. So you know, I can understand the statement of this is a little confusing. So look forward to your future text to clarify that.
Sure. Maybe I can, because I have already read, for example, some definitions in RFC 7426 about the SDN architecture. There is some definition about the control plan, management plan, and what should be included. And also in the DETNET architecture document, RFC 86755. And I think I can post some of my understanding in the main list to maybe get more feedback from the working group. And also, if there is anyone who want to contribute to this part, this will be very welcome. And this is the last page of this presentation, because in IETF 108, we think the work is solid and is ready for move forward. And then there are some comments in the meeting and mentioned that the relationship between this document and the existing OAM work should be clarified. So we add some reference in this version to address that comments. And now we think the document is in good shape, and we could adopt the document first, and then we could work together on the management part. And maybe I want to propose some maybe working group weekly meeting to discuss about the further work. And any comments and feedback is welcome.
I think it would be really useful to hear about anyone who has concerns about adopting the version of the document. I mean, personally, I would like to see the plan changes done first, particularly the clarification on the OEM section. But it's also okay with me if the working group decides to adopt first and then fix it, because I can just make that as an adoption comment. Does anyone else have any concerns if we go to adoption on this? Obviously, we'll do the adoption call on the working group mail list. So hearing no concerns, I believe we'll do an adoption call. We'll talk offline, Janusz and I, and do that. One point is we'll probably wait until after the new year to do it, because I think we're already hitting people's holidays. At least that's my experience.
Sure. Thank you.
Dirk, I think Dirk, you're online. Are you going to present, and do you want to take?
Let me try to do the sharing. Last time I had
Sure.
a couple of issues.
You were also a little low compared to others.
Oh, voice.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Is it better?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I have to use a different headset, and I have to almost swallow the microphone.
Well, the nice thing is I'll push volume up. Just if this is the level you have, it's definitely workable. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Just as a reminder, please, everyone, please go to the CodeMD and add yourself at the end.
Good. I hope you can see my.
We see your whole PowerPoint screen, so it's not in display mode, but it's workable for me. It's workable for me.
Okay. Now you see the presenter mode, right?
Yes. Cool. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the chance. I presented the draft already. My both co-authors are on the line as well, Franz and Jürgen, doing the IETF 109. But I wanted to take this chance mainly to give a little bit of a quick review to the comments we received so far, but then also outline where we want to go with the draft. Actually, so a little bit more looking ahead than going through the draft, per se. Since we presented already in 109. So a bit of a recap. What's the parameters of the draft? I just put the first paragraph here, of the draft up, and the main draft contribution is really the control plane signaling, with the current scenario being a bridged Ethernet together in combination with a RAP-L2 signaling. So it's the DETNET realization over TSN that we're using as a use case. And the L3 signaling is based on at least the first proposal that we're having for something that we call, as a spell in there, 1E too much, to what we call RSVP DETNET, and that's the main part of the contribution we want to focus on. The structure that I already presented of the draft the last time is the main meat. We tried to structure this a little bit initially, at least, and I'll come to the changes in a bit that we're looking into for the next version, around the controller plane framework draft that we just heard, so that's why we have the three main sections. Even though section 3 and 4 were mainly for future revisions, and the main contribution being, sorry, I just have to move a window out of the way. The main focus really on these subsections in section 2. The main proposal for aligning L3 and L2 signaling, more of which I have later, is in 2.5 of the current draft. Now, what's the feedback we received so far? And there were clarifications also on the mailing list to respond to the feedback. What's the scenario here? Is a TSN over DETNET, DETNET over TSN, and we also try to address that better in the use case section that we propose for the next revision. I'll come to that. The current draft talks about DETNET over TSN. That was clarified in the response. Clarify the relation to TSN specific data plane drafts. Indeed, again, if you look at the reply to the list by Franz, there's more clarifications there. And there will be more clarification in the next update. That's indeed required. Also, we clarify the use of the flow information model. Also, that will be done in revised API descriptions. And there were indeed inconsistencies that we had, and they were pointed out correctly in the list feedback. Same terminology. So apologies that we haven't stuck entirely to the terminology there. And again, that's obviously on our list to address that in the next version of contribution. This is a very, very first version 0 draft. So what are the next step really that we have in mind for this? And that is to move from the type of bridged Ethernet scenario that is in version 0 to more broadly introducing the RSVP DETNET proposal and how that integrates into the controller framework. That means the main contribution would be on the protocol proposal, showing the design rationale, outline example interactions, and present clearer use cases beyond the one that we had initially in version 0. And also align that with the draft that we just heard, which at the moment is still an individual draft, but may at that point be a working group draft. Then once we update our drafts more aligned is in terms of the supported control plane architectures. How could that look in a revised structure? So we wanted to introduce a much clearer use case section. TSN is a layer 2 technology with a bridged, sorry, TSN, I don't know why I put TSB there. Based Ethernet is one of the use cases, but we will introduce clearer use cases there, also addressing the terminology comments already in the use cases itself. What are the supported control plane architectures? And that's mainly a summary and references to the current latest draft on the controller plane framework. So there will be strong linkages, but very brief section. The design rationale for RSVP DETNET, which is a combination of the current sections 2.4, 2.2, 2.4, and 2.5 in the current draft. Then an introduction in the actual protocol itself, which will have the API description, which is the current section 2.6, together with the addressing the feedback that we received on the list already. That's where the addressing the feedback will go in, and the protocol specification itself. Example interactions in new section 6, which is based on the current section 2.3, which has the interactions based on the figure we provided, and also linking that to the use cases in section 2, and then the remaining sections as per usual structure. So it's restructuring it very, very, as I said, around the section 5 really, and focusing the draft there, because we felt that would give the draft a better positioning, if you will. Obviously, we'd like to have feedback generally on the current text, but also on the idea of restructuring comments. And obviously, if there are any willing contributors and future co-authors in the round, we would welcome anybody joining us in the endeavor. Thanks.
Okay, this is a good opportunity for people to comment. Balazs, you're first up.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for replying to my comments on the mailing list. I think based on your explanation on the list and also here, I think now I understand much better what you intend to focus on. And I think for me, the title of the draft was very confusing because it is, at least for me, I understand that you will provide control plane signaling. However, as I understand based on your presentation and also the comments, and please correct me if I am wrong, you are focusing on a very special scenario where DETNET nodes are interconnected with the TSN subnetwork, and how to interact between RSVP signaling in the DETNET nodes and RAP signaling in the TSN subnetwork. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's one of the use cases we will outline. So that's indeed the interaction between the layer 3 signaling and the layer 2 signaling. And I do agree that I should have mentioned that as well. We're also rethinking of how to title it better. The title is too generic, and it's not helping.
Okay.
That was an implicit feedback you gave. That was an implicit feedback you gave, but we already realized that. That's also something I should have made that clearer here, that the title is up for grasp as well.
I think that would be also word for a discussion in the work group to, like we did with the data plane, that we have split the data plane related discussion in separate drafts focusing on special scenarios. So maybe this is something that we should also discuss and find a good structure for the control plane related signaling drafts, because I assume that there will be more such signaling related drafts dealing with different network scenarios.
I agree. That's also the reason why we wanted to add the use cases on, so it becomes clear from the use cases what's the scope of the technology discussion we're having.
Okay, and just a final comment based on the data plane draft scenarios drawings. I'm happy to help you to describe your scenario somewhat better. So I will come back to you with some proposals, and you may want to use it in your draft later on.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Janos?
Yeah, thank you for the update and the opportunity for discussion. So I have a question on this slide on under item 5, RSVP DETNet. There is a sub-bullet protocol specification, and I'm not sure if I heard it right that you want to do some protocol specification work like extensions to RSVP, or?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, I guess we should discuss in the working group where to do that in the IETF or how to do. I mean, after having some more detailed proposals on the table, but what the belly rang me that we used to say, or usually say in DETNet, that we do the work in the home working group, like RSVP has an owner. So if we need to do extensions for DETNet to RSVP, then I guess we need to discuss where to do it.
This is David Black, who is by default TSVWG, the Transport Area Working Group, would be the home work group for RSVP.
David, this is Roberto. I think you're missing the definition of T's, Traffic Engineering Architecture and Signaling Working Group. Mm-hmm. It's actually the home for RSVP now.
Oh, okay, good. Because basically, I don't want it.
Yeah. So, sorry to interrupt, but
no. Okay. This is traffic engineering RSVP. This is not the. This is not the general flow one. Okay.
Right, but even the general flow one, my understanding, is owned by T's. Certainly had one addition, but that's like an ISG discussion. We shouldn't go down that rat hole.
Okay, so no problem.
To address the well, if you want to, just that's fine. But to address the comment from Janos about which working group, T's would be the right place for it if we decide to split it out. I would say for now, while it's maturing, just keep it all together, and then before adoption is when we can address whether we split the document into two. And I note that we have Deborah Brungard, our AD, online. So if she feels differently, she of course can jump in and say do something different. But my advice, as with both chair hats on, would be keep it in this document, and then let's address it at right before adoption.
Thank you for the clarification. Sounds good. Thank you.
I see from the chat is Deborah agrees. By the way, thank you for using that. For some reason, my Pigeon instance is like on some other screen and I can't access it. So I'm actually missing anything going into Jabber. My apologies.
I haven't seen anything in Jabber.
Okay, great. Thank you. I do have one comment as a with any hat, no hat, doesn't really matter. I think the term RSVP DETNet is a little confusing. To echo what others have said, and you're already taking action to clarify, I think that'll be really helpful. But to me, RSVP DETNet is extensions to RSVP to support core DETNet, not extensions to RSVP to support TSN. So that name is a little misleading too. I do think it would be interesting to make sure you cover both any RSVP extensions you think are necessary to support DETNet in general, separately from any RSVP extensions you think are needed to support TSN in particular.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Thank you. I agree. Let me have a discussion with the co-authors on that. But that's a very good point. And I can see the confusion. So I don't have a very good answer at the moment, but I take the point.
I don't think I'm asking for anything more than understanding of the point and thinking about it.
Acknowledging, yes. Well done. No, that's all. That's all done. I'm not disagreeing. I'm nodding. I'm just not entirely sure yet where this goes, but I do agree and acknowledge that.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Sorry,
does anyone else want to jump in the queue? So next up, we have
Can I? Sorry, I was slow to unmute or type in. Maybe just elaborate a bit more that train of thoughts. That I guess what we should see first is what the signaling is really needed for DETNet, or what are the overall extensions needed for RSVP. If we go that way, and then after having a view on that, maybe we can go more elaborate on more like what is needed for TSN, but without a somewhat basis on how do we do signaling for DETNet. It's not easy for me to see the next step. So actually, in other words, we have been working on the controller plane framework draft as it was presented just not so long ago, and then we are about to call for adoption. And I guess it would be good to see what is needed overall for that. But this is just some thoughts. So maybe rephrasing it as a question to the authors of the drafts we have seen, are you thinking of working out, since you call it RSVP DETNet, the overall signaling for DETNet as well, or you only focus on TSN interworking?
Let me have a discussion with the co-authors. I would answer this at the moment, but that is tentative. The DETNet question, even though the starting point for our discussions was TSN.
Okay.
But let me come back on that. But I think that's very generally in the line of argument, the line of thinking that you outlined. I do agree. Jumping on the TSN question without having some idea on the DETNet question seems the wrong way around.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're going to move on to microbursting. I'm not sure who is presenting that.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Zhong Pengdu from China Mobile or CMCC. I will show the slide.
If you can share them, that's great. If you can't, I can.
You can see my screen?
It seems to be loading. Yes, we see the edit mode. It's okay if you want to run this way, but we don't see presentation mode. Your call.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
This presentation I have introduced in the last IETF, but we get some feedback and we revise it. And I'm very glad to have the opportunity to introduce the slides. And I will do a quick introduction about the slide. This is about the motivation. We are focused on the transport network below this 5G system, and this transport network is used to provide this connection service for 5G system, and we want this 5G barrier network to become deterministic. And we think that it is hard to provide this deterministic service because the traditional IP network is based on this statistical multiplexing. And this is work.
Sorry, may I just note that's a nice picture in 2 slides before, and wanted to mention that actually the DETNET use cases RFC has a section about cellular networks. So kind of the point I'm making is that it was among the goals to address the problem of cellular networks.
Okay, I can text the document, but I think we should not have some conflict with them.
I just wanted to give it as an additional information to your slides. But please go on. I did not mean to have any question.
Okay, thank you. This about the related work, we think that EEE and IETF all do some work for this deterministic purpose. But the EEE have done the project mainly for the layer 2 network, and DETNET have a larger scope. We have done a lot of jobs to enable this deterministic service, both in layer 2 and layer 3. And I changed some words here, changed some sentence here, but we still think that we have some gaps for this 5G barrier network, because of course the present mechanism can achieve the target, but we think it achieve the target with a relative higher cost. We want to explore some solution with a lower cost. This is the gaps we think in this layer 3 deterministic network. We are short of common and major mechanism, and think the main aspect is the simplicity and the scalability. And this page about why we think that currently this mechanism cannot be directly used in the large scale layer 3 network. The first is synchronization requirement and the flow state requirement. And we think that some test mechanism need a constant and forecastable traffic characteristic. And when we were seeking this problem in current IP forwarding, we found that the main problem is that in the current IP network, we can accept this packet loss, but in this deterministic forwarding, we cannot accept the packet loss. We think the packet loss is mainly caused by the microburst in the network. This page is about the introduction of the microburst. When we see the device on the interface or network equipment, if we observe the traffic at a granularity of per second, we can obtain a smooth curve. But if we see it at a granularity of millisecond, we can see some microbursts on the interface. We think that in most cases, the buffer on the equipment can handle the microburst, but in some corner case, the microburst will be aggregated and bring the long delay, the granularity or millisecond. We think is uncontrolled and even the packet loss. We also analyze the causes of microburst. Firstly, we think that IP traffic has an instinct for burstiness. And secondly, we think perhaps multiple flows from different incoming interface may need to go into the same outgoing interface. And thirdly, we think the IP node have been designed to send traffic as quickly as possible, and they do not know whether the downstream nodes buffer can handle the traffic. And in our draft, we provide a solution or idea, or potential idea for this to decrease this microburst. We think it is a solution at a relatively lower cost than the currently TSN mechanism, such as that mechanism needs synchronization. We do not need synchronization here, and it's a brief introduction of our solution. We need in this edge node, we do per flow shaping, and in the middle node, we do per interface shaping. And the purpose is to maintain a proper buffer depth on the P node and forward the deterministic packets orderly instead of as quickly as possible. And I have added 2 more pages here to explain more about the mechanism. This page is about the little detailed explanation of the proposed mechanism. We have only 2 PE nodes here, perhaps in the real network that more PE nodes here. Let's use this PE node as an example. A lot of these critical flows coming in, and we recognize them and do a flow schedule on the edge. The purpose is to make the critical traffic have a constant traffic model. And after they go into our network, we on the P node, we just need to do a per interface schedule in the call. The critical traffic are aggregated to ensure the scalability, and the pacing on the interface also make sure that they do not gather too much. Our purpose is to make the critical traffic forwarded at the shape just as the outgoing the edge as much as possible, not as quickly as possible. And we give a solution here. We assuming that the sending rate of the buffer on the interface for the critical traffic is the same as the receiving rate. If all works good, then the buffer will be maintained with a proper depth. There are also some other requirements, but we think it can be solved. Not very difficult. For example, we need some SVP-like mechanism with a good scalability to make sure the bandwidth on the interface is not exceeded. And this is some comparison about the potential mechanisms. We think that traditional IP forwarding is easy to deploy and with a good scalability, but they cannot provide this 100% low latency assurance. And the second is traditional IP forwarding with priorities. We give the critical traffic a higher priority. I think it's also easy to deploy and with a good scalability, but they only can be good if only a small amount of critical traffic in the network. If we use or we do it lot of if we do some mechanism in our draft, perhaps we can get a higher amount of critical traffic in the network. We also assume that a higher priority for the critical traffic, and we do this per flow schedule in the edge and per interface schedule in the core. And I think it is relatively easy to deploy and with relatively good scalability. We also have some assumptions. Bandwidth is reserved, and the traffic, critical traffic are forwarded in order. And the last time about the TSN mechanism and in IEEE, they are normally not easy to deploy and normally not good at scalability. And of course, they can provide this 100% low latency. Okay, that's all. Thank you. Thanks for listening and welcome for comments.
Okay, I'd ask anyone who wants to ask questions to join the queue. I seem to be first, so I'll go. Are you looking at this as a standardized mechanism or an informational document?
The solution is not, in fact, is not completed in our aspect. So I think perhaps informational is better.
Okay, I think that's good. That matches what we've done with bounded latency. Also, I'll note that what you're seeing with the microbursting, you didn't talk about if they were implementing a standard queuing mechanism or not, and the equipment you were testing. And so what you may be talking about is either a implementation problem or a standardized queuing mechanism problem. If it was the standardized queuing mechanism problem, that would go to whatever group defined that, whether it be an IEEE one or TSV one. And I know as we heard earlier, David Black's online, so that would be his working group. But an informational document, it's okay to do here, and look forward to seeing what you put together. Thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Anyone else want to join the queue? I mean, we really wanted to give people time to discuss since we ran out of time at the working group meeting. Of course, we have a lot less people on the call. Well, hearing no others, I'll just go back to my final comment is look forward to seeing the added content you discussed.
Yeah, perhaps maybe just one comment that maybe it seems to me that you are actually talking about multiple problems to be solved, like the scale of a network and what other problems, like I don't know if I got it right, the message that practically speaking, what I heard you saying, that time sync is not applicable in a large scale network, and the microburst seems to be another problem. So maybe somehow, I don't know, it might be good to clarify what the problem, what is the solution for which problem, or so it was a bit confusing to me at least.
Thank you for the suggestion. The current document may be to we can add some explanation about your confusing items in the
Okay.
future document.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And maybe one more note that actually there have been a couple of mechanisms put on the table in IEEE 2.1 as well. Not everything has been standardized. Like there was one of the proposals is the so-called Paternoster shaper, kind of with similar goals in the sense of decreasing the state to be maintained. I'm not sure if you have taken a look at that, but we can take this offline and I can give you pointers if you are interested.
Okay, thank you. We are also doing some simulation work for this mechanism. Perhaps we can talk it later.
Yes, sure. Sounds good.
I lost my unmute button, so it took me a moment to respond. Is there anyone who would like to bring up any other topic before we close the meeting?
As for the working meetings, just to remind people that we have already scheduled the Yang, slot for Yang WebEx meetings have been announced, and continuing using the very same time slot to progress the Yang draft we have been using previously. The team will decide on when to take a holiday break. Not so much left from this year, but that information has been announced on the list already.
Yeah, I hope we can get those moving towards closure so we can wrap that work up soon. So thank you all for continuing that work.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for the efforts.
János, anything else before we say goodbye?
I don't have anything else coming to mind. No.
Thank you all so much for participating in this meeting. We look forward to the future revisions that were discussed, and I expect we'll have one working group adoption that comes out of this, but that it'll start after the new year. Actually, we're early enough in the month, we might start it now. János, you and I can talk about that offline.
Yes. We do that. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
And thank you, everybody, and happy holidays. And keep continuing the work next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Have a good break. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.